People that know me well know that I love being a priest. But when I was in the seminary, I often went through difficult times, sometimes questioning or discerning my vocation, with the reality of, could I do this? Am I called to this? Would I like being a priest? I had a good friend in the seminary who was like a father figure to me, and he could see in my face that I was struggling, and so one day he pulled me into his office and he said, I have something I want to give to you. And he pulled out a prayer medal, and he gave me the medal to hold on to, and he told me whenever I was struggling, whenever I was going through a difficult time or felt lonely or afraid, he invited me just to hold on to this prayer medal. He told me that anytime I would hold this prayer medal, that I could be reminded by the love of the Father, by His love, and by the love of so many people. And so each time I held that prayer medal, I remembered that I was loved and that I was held. I had this moment of inspiration to create my own prayer medal, and I was blessed to have a parishioner at my parish who was a jeweler, and he taught me how to carve in wax and actually begin to shape this out of wax, this image of the Holy Family, and then that wax would be placed into a mold, the silver would be poured in, it would replace the wax, and when you cracked open the mold, there was the image of the Holy Family in the prayer medal. Sometime after the medal was completed, there was a young boy, Michael, who came to see me in my office. And I first thought he was coming to see me to talk about the priesthood, but by the look on his face, I could tell it was something very different. As Michael began to talk, the tears welled up in his eyes. And when he finally got it out, he said to me, "My papi's dying," and he broke down crying. It was one of those times in the priesthood where I didn't even know what to say to comfort him. And so I prayed with him for a little while, and then I remembered that I had these prayer medals. And so I went and grabbed one and gave it to Michael, and I put it in his hand, and I said to him, "Michael, I want you to have this, and I just want you to hold on to it. And whenever your heart is really aching, and when you're worried about losing your papi, I want you to remember that you are loved by the Holy Family." As Michael looked down and held the medal in his hand, something changed in his eyes, and as he flipped it over, he saw the inscription on the back, which says, "God is with us." There was a small smile on his face, and he looked at me and he said, "I know that He is. I know that God is with me." A few Sundays after that, as I was getting ready for Mass and vesting and just was coming down the center aisle, there was an elderly man in the back of the church, and he grabbed my chasuble and he pulled me close to him. And he held out a prayer medal and he thanked me for it. He said, "Father, thank you for this prayer medal." And I scanned my mind quickly because I didn't remember giving it to him. I don't remember him from a hospital or a nursing home. And then he looked at me and he said, "Michael wanted me to have this." When I talked to Michael later, I found out that he thought that his grandfather needed it more than he did. Sometime later, I received a call in my office late at night, and it was one of Michael's best friends telling me that I needed to go to his house immediately because his papi was dying. And I'll never forget when I pulled into the drive that night, Michael was lit up by the headlight, and he was outside all alone, just pacing in the driveway. And when I got out of my truck, he ran up to me and gave me a big hug, and he broke down crying. After a moment, I said, "Michael, why don't we go inside and pray?" So I walked into the back bedroom where Michael's papi was. And as he was laying there dying on his hospital bed, I gathered the entire family around him. And we began to pray together, and what was so beautiful, I've never experienced anything like this, somebody so near death. He still knew all the words to every prayer. Even though he couldn't speak, he was still mouthing the words, "Lord, have mercy." And it was tremendously beautiful to be surrounded with his entire family. As I anointed his forehead and went to anoint the palm of his hand and turned over his palm, I realized that he was holding and clasping the Holy Family prayer medal. And so I gently pushed it aside and anointed his palm and tucked it back over. Michael's papi would die later that night holding the prayer medal in his hand. A week later was the wake, and as I walked into the funeral home, I expected Michael to be sad, and I was surprised that when he made eye contact with me, he actually wasn't sad. He was beaming, he was smiling. And so I walked up to him and I said, "Michael, I can't believe you're smiling." And he said to me, "Father, you're never going to believe it, but after my papi died, my grandmother gave me the prayer medal. She wanted me to keep it." And I realized at that moment that Michael had this medal, this sacramental, to always hold on to.